Mo. And yeah, welcome everyone.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I think this is going to be a very interesting discussion. We've got three very experienced and interesting personalities here to talk various things about, how does a business runs coherently with data democratization, changing the mindset and embedding the data culture within different organizations. So let me start with a quick introduction. So I work for Confluent. My role is data architect. So I work mostly with financial services sector. I'm responsible for architecting, building solutions to help organizations extend and then sort of optimize their businesses, especially with the including the streaming data and so on. So maybe we can start with some introduction. Marta, would you like to introduce yourself first and your role and your background and so on?
Yes, I've been working inside the data world for 20 years or a lot of time ago. Inside this topic, I have experience because my company before was Leroy Merlin, was of the most important retailers in Spain, and there I was launching the data office as a starting point, so develop mature very low. And now I'm in Adevinta, an online classifiers with different marketplaces around the world, and I'm inside the data platform team. So I'm just giving the tooling to others to make this data-driven journey easy, and scalable, of course. So, and now in a company with another level of maturity, of course, because we are not focused on the access of data. We are focused more on the democratization of the analytics part and try to accelerate this.
Excellent. No, that's really good to meet you, Marta. And Stavrianna, you're next on my screen. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, thanks for the introduction, Mo. I am Stavrianna Dimitriou. I am the Director of Data Strategy and Analytics at PPC. That is the ex-monopoly, currently the largest energy and utility provider in Greece. I have around 15 years of experience in the area of data and analytics, providing automated analytic solutions to commercial organizations across Europe, Middle East, India, and Africa. Because my previous roles were consulting, I have worked for Accenture and EY, while lately I was also at the PAP. So I'm really looking forward to this session.
No, looking forward to have a discussion with you. You've got lots of experience under your belt and a very diverse experience there as well. Andreea, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Andreea. I'm based in London, and I'm a Director of Data Strategy for Aldermore Bank. And I just want to share, yesterday, actually, Aldermore is named #1 bank in the UK by Forbes, so we're very proud of that. My background is in consulting, and before being in finance, I've done everything in consulting space, in the tech and data and delivery consulting space across the globe, actually. Yeah.
Excellent. Good to meet you. So as we understand, I think we all face the same challenge when it comes to data democratization. We obviously need to make data available to the organization, across the organizations, enabling our employees and all customers, and then essentially make data-driven decisions on pretty much on a day-to-day basis. So Marta, maybe let's start with yourself. And in any business, there's 3 key components, as I understand: people, process, and third, technology. One of the challenges that I see is the coherent approach between the people, process, and technology. I understand in your role that it could be pretty pivotal to keep everything synchronized and leverage everything to its maximum potential. Would you like to share some experience? How do you make sure that people, process, and technology are working to its best optimal model? And maybe share some examples if you have.
Oh, yes. I cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I think that I understand the question, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, as you said, these 3 pillars are very important inside the data democratization program. and are important not by itself, but in a balanced way, not to think only in people, only in technology. So you need a technology that break down the barriers of the data silos that, as a starting point inside this data democratization, trying to get the access of the data to the ones that need it and the ones that can access to this data. So in a governed way, you need the process for scale, for make this happening. And of course, you need the people, the programs inside the data literacy, but not only talking about storytelling with data, the good things that you can make with data, but also how important is the data, no? The storytelling about data, no? What was the journey you are using this data, no? The famous garbage in, garbage out. So you have to bring, you will take good decisions with good data, but with bad data. No? And inside our company, as I mentioned before, I'm very focused on how to accelerate this part in the part of technology. And inside our company, as is very important, the 3 ones, today our users, no, our company, everyone can access the data they need, because we have all this part covered, and they know the importance of AI models and so on, and they want to accelerate. And we find that this autonomy they have today have to be more. So we are working on self-serve tooling for not only data engineers, that are the ones that are making this data pipeline, this transformation from them, have a final result for the business. We are working on how to solve these bottlenecks that happens when analysts need something and the data engineer have a lot of things to do. And how can we accelerate and bring these kind of profiles a governed and scalable way of being autonomous? By thinking about the race, the data governance, the data quality, and inside Adevinta Spain, we are working on it, and the results are there. So at the beginning, we have our users inside our data platform were 30 data engineers that were using our tooling and were exploring data. And now we have more than 200, 50 data profiles and 50 non-data profiles, because they find our data platform easy to use, and they understand this process needed for this trustable and discoverable data they have. So we were very focused on it, and we are, of course, we are solving this problem. But this is a journey, so we have a lot of challenges more. This is not never ending, but it's true that we cover the one goal we have there, that was how to accelerate this data-driven decision inside the company, that not only depends on one profile, for being sure that all the processes are in a quality, with the CI/CD, with the production ready, and so on. So trying to put all this part inside the tooling we are bringing in a code way, in a computational way, for being sure that it scales, that the autonomy scales also, because we are bringing to our users quality products.
Excellent. No, that's great to hear. And then that's really useful. So I know you mentioned that the teams in your organization have been growing, and one of the challenges that I see with a lot of customers is when they scale up, it also, although it's great for the organization, hopefully your data maturity is getting better, the quality is getting better, and you have better processes to manage those data streams or data sets and so on and so forth. But it also brings some challenges around the promoting data democratization, for example, which are probably easier to solve when the teams are smaller. Could you think of any challenges that you noticed once the teams have been scaled up? And would you say that, was there a specific approach that you'd like to share, how people would solve that scalability challenge? And assuming that business is growing, you're adopting more tools, you're adopting more data sets essentially, and how do you keep up with the people serving those demands and keeping up with the business and so on?
Well, we were very focused and trying to have a strategy not focused on the reactive way, but on the proactive way. Because we find that normally during all the data journey, as a data engineer, as an analyst, you are solving a lot of quality problems when you find them, no? And you are trying to clean your data, you are trying to transform your data as you want. And what we are working very focused inside Adevinta is how to put the governance and these rules more to the left, no? And on that way, we are implementing what we call data contracts, no? Something that puts there the demands from the consumer and the producer, no? And trying that the data quality checks start at the beginning and not at the final, no? When this dashboard is built, and trying to put all the alerting at the first step. So when the data is not arriving, you have a warning inside this dashboard, no? And what happens before is that what happened with this data in this dashboard? And someone was just collecting the information, what is happening, and someone find, well, it's a problem with the source, at the beginning. So now we are trying to reduce this process that are happening inside. And of course, you need the use cases for them trying to put it to the left. So for that reason, I'm saying that it's a journey. And it's the way to democratize this part, because you know exactly the type of data you are receiving, you know exactly the alerting, you know exactly if this is fresh or not. And we are working on it for trying that this data democratization start not only with the building good products, but also to be sure that the data you are consuming is a good one. And if not, it's also an input for us how to put this at the beginning and working with this for trying that and this scales, because you mean that you are not working on solving the data problems at the final, you are solving them at the beginning, so you can scale doing another things and solving other use cases. And this is also our focus today.
Absolutely, I think I absolutely agree, and this is quite key, is to, as you stealing your words, garbage in, garbage out. So I think what you're saying is tackling the problem early on at the point of ingestion, more towards the left-hand side, at the time when you're actually bringing in those data sources, onboarding those data sources, and that also helps to reduce perhaps the quantity of data. I was working with a use case where there's large volumes of data coming in from an analytical platform. Not everything was useful further downstream when we were actually going to the consumption point. So I absolutely agree, Marta. I think it's a very good point, is to improve the quality of that data early on in the process, and then that way you have a smaller problem to handle. Oh, that's great. So Andreea, I want to come to you, because I work with Aldermore. It's quite a prominent financial institution in UK here, and your role as a data strategy and transformation at Aldermore Bank. One of the challenges that banks and any financial institutions have is embedding the data culture within the organization, and obviously being a financial industry, there are very strict regulatory compliance and a lot of checks and balances that go in, and that perhaps doesn't go in the same fashion in other industries, and maybe not as strictly defined. How would you define a data culture, or how would you promote data culture within an organization, especially within a bank?
Yeah, we actually did a lot of work in the last year and a half, I would say, at Aldermore. And I think it's good to recognize, first of all, that it's a journey, right? And also that all the business lines and the functions across the bank or the organization are not at the same level, right? So you have pockets and pockets. So when we started, first of all, we started out mapping up the level of data literacy maturity. So basically, we went to each business lines, we discussed with the people there, we tried to understand where they are in terms of skills, in terms of how they use data, what sort of tools they apply, and everything else. So we did this sort of, obviously, as data geeks, we measured it, right? So this is where we started. We wanted to see where they are in this data maturity journey. And the results were quite telling, in the sense that it created this picture with pockets. You had pockets that was very, very, very low in terms of skills available, knowledge. And then you had pockets where the level of knowledge and skills and just general data literacy was quite high, and they wanted more, right? And again, then once you know that, you need to map it with your capabilities roadmap, right? Because you will have places where they just need to learn, first of all, about data. They just need to own the data first. They need to learn about data quality. quality first. And then on the opposite spectrums, you have pockets where they're all about self-serve. I want to do my own thing. I just want access to capabilities and so on. So then the juggling act becomes, how do you manage those two realities that exist at the same time, right? And it's almost like, first of all, you need to recognize you can't please everyone. So you need to prioritize, right? So we tackled it this way. You need to get everyone at the level of just basic functional data literacy level. So that's across the bank, right? We recognize that 200, 500 people, they need to be to this level. And that's quite easy to implement. You kind of just get to a training level, you measure it, and it's quite fine. But for me, that's just surface indicator. It doesn't tell you much, right? I mean, how many times have we been to a training and we didn't really do anything after? So I call it a surface thing. It's not really. And then we went a bit deeper into what I call in-depth indicators, and we looked at, okay, what are the results that we're actually trying to see? So, for example, we measure if people report data quality issue. This is for me a really good indicator because it means they know more, they're aware of it, and now they can raise it as an issue and then they can remediate it. So a high number of DQ issues, it's a good thing in the beginning, right? And then other in-depth indicators that we're looking at is, do they generate more reports, for example, using the visualization tools and everything else that we have? Has the quality there increased? And also, do they manage it better? Do they retire some of the tools and the reports that they have? And that's another good in-depth indicator to see how people are actually using what you have. And then other indicators that we measure are around the tickets that we receive through the front door office. So, for example, if you want to know if your data culture is increasing, you will see a higher number of tickets coming through to your data team, right? This means a lot of the things. They want more access, more training, more accounts, and anything, really. They come to you more. So basically, you will be flooded with requests, and that's always a good thing. So I think we shouldn't approach it I'm hearing many times, it's like, oh, culture is such a fuzzy thing and hard to address and so on. But you can do it. You can definitely do it. And you can have a plan and you address it in a very structured way. And the other thing that we did and helped a lot, we organized in-person events in all the locations that we have. So we call them data days, and it was literally us going and talking to people and telling them, hey, we exist, this is what you do, what sort of problems do you have, what sort of opportunities do we have, and things like that. So basically, we started from nothing, and we are in a place where we now have a good view of the data literacy map across the organization in each business lines. We also have now a view of the data backlog for each business line and function. This is work that we've done in collaboration with each business line, right? We also have now transfer data ownership to all the business lines and functions. So there are things that you can actually do, and data culture is not this mystical thing. It can definitely be addressed. This would be my conclusion,
Sure.
actually, after doing it for some time now. Yeah.
You raised some very good points, and I think that at the heart of your solution, or your the way you solved it, is data literacy. I think if you have data literacy and you define a frame set of, or some set of rules to say data must be at least at this level of quality, and that's my actually another question for you is. For me, I mean, for every organization, the quality of data is a very subjective. How good the data is, right? There's always inconsistency. There's always some duplication always left in there. There's always issues or DQ issues. Those 6 DQ dimensions that we deal with. It's never 100%, or it's very difficult to get to that 100%, and it costs businesses so much to get to that level. So. And then there's unknowns, things that you don't know that they actually exist in when it comes to the quality of the data. How do you sort of deal with those challenges, and how do you measure the score of DQ?
You prioritize it. There's no way you're gonna. I think we need to accept that we're never gonna fix DQ forever and ever. So you start from that place. It's impossible, right? And then you prioritize it. And because the financial sector, as you said, is highly regulated, we start with the data pockets that are the most impacted. So, for example, everything that impacts critical regulatory and compliance things, that's where we go first. Then we look at everything, all the data fields that impact regulatory reporting. So things that we know we need to do, otherwise our business or our customers are in danger, or there is a danger to our reputation and things like that. So that's level 2 priority. And then level 3, you look at all the customer data, right? Again, if you go and you prioritize whatever you have, again, there will be prioritization based on the industry and so on, but this is where I would start and just have a sensible approach to it. You're never going to get it done and you're never going to be finished, but just start, put it on paper, right? What's the number 1 area we need to address, and just start with that. And then it will reduce your risk essentially, and you'll be able to do more. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a scoring system perhaps to say that, okay, well, between 0 and 100 for data to be usable within the organization for a certain use case or a certain team, etc., the score of 80% or above must be minimal? Or do you define some sort of?
Yeah, it depends from initiative to initiative. So for example, actually it's quite interesting. We determine that score for big projects. For example, now we're looking at developing some AI, big machine learning projects. When we're looking at that, then we determine the score for that as well, right? In areas where it impacts your regulatory and compliance things, there it has to be 100%. There's no room for error. That has to be solid, right? So again, it depends. That's my answer to that. Yeah.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you. I want to come to Stavrianna, if I could understand a little bit around the data initiatives, which are primarily driven by business objectives, and those business objectives can be sometimes difficult or vague to understand. And I think the tie or the connectivity between your business objectives or translation into those data initiatives, how do you map those, and how do you deal with those? How do you translate the business objectives into data initiatives, and how do you then handle them? I guess it's a pretty common and at the same time a very complex challenge that everyone faces at some point in their day-to-day life.
Indeed. Actually, that is a top priority, and I think that's the only way that we can basically ensure all we need in order to move with this journey that we've all called to data-driven decision-making. So the first thing that we need to do, and that's what I've seen organizations in my previous professional experience doing successfully, is understanding the business goals. Let me be more specific. If the top management of a commercial team sets as goal improve TNPS, that is the transactional net promoter score, that is the customer's intention after a transaction to propose the services to a customer, then we all need, let's say, to do whatever lies within our domain in order to ensure and achieve that target specifically. So as people, professionals, experienced and experts in data-related initiatives, we would need to collect the data from all various touch points and customer interactions to make sure that we understand customer needs, get insights in the customer preferences, so that we can tailor products and services based on that. So first thing would be to understand the business goals. And then we would have to foster data-driven decision-making. For example, design approaches to target marketing outbound campaigns, and in this way generate in turn churn decrease. I would also strongly suggest a comprehensive data strategy and roadmaps that are closely aligned again with commercial goals. I can state an example from my earlier experience about a company having in place a customer segmentation model. Although such a model may already exist for a number of years, the company makes sure that the model is further enhanced every single year in a different dimension every time. That different dimension can be the frequency of update. Another dimension can be in which type of IT systems and or customer service platforms is it served. So how many different front officers and back officers look at this information and thus serve in a better quality the customer. Another dimension could be which are the underlying fields used for the calculation. We have that to change it. Some other times, the algorithm that goes behind the scenes for the segmentation to be served. And what do we achieve in that way? that the segmentation model always stays up to date, is aligned with business objectives, and top management is always aware and informed, so that we can also ensure a senior stakeholder buy-in. I also see very important to foster a cross-functional collaboration. So I would also very much agree with what Andreea described earlier. We have centralized teams of data scientists sitting and working very closely with other functional teams in order to make sure that all data initiatives and data-related products are designed in the way that truly satisfies customer needs and the objectives of each and every business unit. This is part of our job, measuring and monitoring performance. So, for example, every new product, every new campaign that is launched, every change in our processes and systems, it's a good idea to monitor performance, like, for example, the same example of TNPS before and after this change. Success rates of outbound marketing campaigns, churn rates in test and control populations of outbound campaigns, but also very important to monitor data quality and accuracy. How much is the improvement that we achieve every year? How do we count that? What's the number of interventions that we conduct in order to improve the data quality? That also helps us build the experience to further improve. And in a way, foster and achieve the data culture. As last point, I would cite the need for continuous learning and improvement. That basically it means that all our data science teams is very important to receive ongoing training and development programs to upskill their skill set in emerging technologies and analytical techniques. Possibly we also support other teams, functional teams, to become more data literate via demos, sessions, by basically exposing all our assets. And by assets, we may refer to both advanced visualization, dashboards and tools, but also some AI ML. We don't expect decentralized teams, obviously, to become data science, but they can be very good users in order to become truly independent. And then we have the data-driven culture embedded within all our organizations' operations.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. That's a very good. You packed a lot of points in that last few discussion that you did there. So, and one of the points I want to pick up on is you mentioned around learning and relearning. Now, I'm an architect and I've come from a sort of engineering background. One of the challenges that I do see, and I still see a lot, probably I see more out there in the industry, is people with certain profiles, especially the engineers, operators, architects, etc. They have certain skill sets. So, for example, I'll pick up an example. I used to work for an ETL company, and then we used to work a lot with developers, SQL developers, Java developer, or any other programming languages, and those developers would have very strong expertise and very strong grip using the technologies that they have obviously been used for many, many years. And when you bring them a new, more powerful solution, such as take a graphical user interface-based ETL tool, for example, where somebody used to do data quality or data governance or some data integration, transformation using Python, C, Java, whatever tool or whatever language they used, they would be comfortable with that. And then the challenge comes in once to take the business to the next level, you now need to introduce a new set of tools. And that brings a challenge. How do you then promote those people? Because there's always a resistance from those people. Look, I don't want to use something new here. I'm just comfortable with what I've been doing for the past many, many years. So I want to open the floor to, I'm sure this is a problem that everyone here faces. I don't know, Andreea, if you want to, do you see that problem in your organization? Upskilling people?
Definitely. And there are two ways to approach this, and I think you need both. So first of all is recognizing that adoption framework in which you have your early adopters. So I don't think everyone will resist change. In reality, you have your early adopters, those that would be, yeah, absolutely, I'm with you, ride or die, let's do it. Then you kind of have people in the middle that are like, oh, I'm waiting to see what happens. And then you have at the end of it, you have a group that's like, no way, I don't want to do it, right? The thing is, that small group at the end, they are the most vocal. So that's why the impression is that change is a hard thing and we don't want to do it. In reality, what you need to do is just give more airtime to the people in the front, the early adopter, and those in the middle. And then the voices in the back will quiet down naturally. So there's that in the adoption journey. There's one thing. And the other thing that we all need to recognize actually that upskilling is part of our job. So the reality job markets will upskill until we retire and probably even after if we still want to do something. So that's the reality of the work we do, of the fields we operate in, and that's how technology changes. So if you don't want to upskill, then maybe technology is not for you. I sometimes talk to people who are very early in their career in technology, and they're always, oh, what do I need to learn? When will I know enough? You'll never know enough. This is the reality of the field we're in. So yeah, I would approach it to be those two things, those two angles. And this is what we do anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is that you broke a group of people into 3 different buckets. So you say there's early adapters who are always keen to try something new, and whenever a company organizes and business dictates, okay, well, this is something which is going to make your life easier, but you need to take the first step to adapt it. And there's be people, like you said, in the first bucket who'll go for it first, even before you're needing to push them. Then the second batch of people will probably see, okay, well, this is working for another group of people, and they'll kind of get motivation. And the third group, Andreea, as you said, they're kind of the most difficult one. And you said that you just fire them and get a new team.
No, it's actually, you reduce the airtime, to be honest, and also recognize you will never get consensus across the board 100%. I've been in hundreds of RFPs process, selection tools process, and everything like that. I've never been in one where everyone agreed. That's impossible, right? So it's just, that's how you drive it forward. And recognizing that, I guess. Yeah.
No, absolutely. The third bucket was myself, and you give me that advice. No, that's great. I think that there's a lot of expertise and diverse expertise in this room here. What advice? I think it's more of a broader question for an organization who wants to kickstart or improve their data-driven journey or data-driven culture. Is there any top tips that any of you can think of that, okay, well, if you do this will definitely fast forward you or jumpstart you into a data-driven culture in your organization? I mean, everyone is somehow at some point in their journey in a data-driven culture. Some organizations are much ahead, some are not so much. So somebody who's pretty early on in that phase, somebody who's adopting new tools, keeping up with the, obviously with a new people, process, and technology, and so on. Is there any tips that you'd like to share? Anyone here has any tips that would be good? And
well, if you want, I can start.
Yeah, sure, Marta, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, think about why you want to start this journey. And this is because of, and Stavrianna says, about the value of the data, the data monetization, because it's the way, with this why, you can calculate if you are near or not with this data-driven journey. The other thing, I will also repeat something that Andreea said, and I think that it's the key, is just cut into pieces, trying to understand exactly which is the level of maturity, and trying to understand very well this one that needs this box that needs this part, and the other that needs more about data literacy, another that needs more about this kind of tooling. Trying to cut into pieces, trying to be very focused on value, and that means to find the quick wins, the main problems you have inside your company, that with the less effort, of course, because for that reason are quick wins, have the most value. So you have data for then tell everyone the value of this data. And this is very important, because the data-driven journey, it's not a PowerPoint or it's something you want to achieve. It has to start with something, with a value, and then as a starting point, you can continue the journey. But we always focus on this common goal that is the start, when you are starting this journey. This is the common goal for everyone, for the people, the process, and the technology. And you have to be sure that you have this data also in that process for being sure that you are near or not from the final goal. Because it's the way you are demonstrating the value of why you are starting this journey, no? And the key is just to put into pieces, as Andreea said, and know exactly what kind of company you are dealing with, what kind of process, which is the most valuable data, which are the main problems. So understanding very well, because the data-driven journey is not the same from Andrea's, from Stavrianna, from my company situation. Everyone have a different organization. The data science are inside the teams, business teams, or outside. So you have to deal with different situations, with different technology, and you have to be very focused on the perfect solution for your, and of course, learning from the journey. But the key for me is what Andreea said, to understand very well where to start, and then go ahead with the first MVP, the first quick win.
Okay, so follow a very well-defined roadmap in a technical journey, which is mapped to business objectives. Yeah, no, that's definitely the key, and then I guess that just following that discipline helps a lot, I suppose. Sorry, Andreea, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to add a nuanced, I guess, point of view of that. I don't know how I feel about detailed roadmaps, and I already hear people shouting, no! The reality is it depends. So for example, if we're talking about new technologies, let's say AI, right, which is coming for all of us, I can't have a roadmap for AI because I don't even know what's possible to do with it and how that's going to go. So I guess the approach really needs to be sensible. So what I would recommend usually, especially for new beginners, either new technology or new organizations or who are generally beginners in the journeys, start small, start with proof of concept. The reality is you don't need a strategy from the beginning, necessarily like a specific data strategy or a detailed roadmap in the beginning, but what you do need is that experimentation zone. So contain it somehow, keep it safe, experimentate, do one proof of concept, then do another. Once you have 5 or 6 under your belt, yeah, maybe you're ready for a roadmap strategy and so on, because you have lessons learned from that process. So again, just start small, slice by slice, exactly, and then you'll get to a place where you do need a more formalized approach. Yeah, it's just not to be scared by the whole thing and just do big design up front. That never really works. So yeah, just a few thoughts on that actually.
So divide and conquer basically, and I think that's a very good advice. Absolutely, I think that applies and then applies to pretty much any situation. And we deal with pretty monolith challenges in businesses these days, so I completely understand. Okay, I think Stavrianna, I think you have your hand up. You wanted to add something?
Just adding a further point, although perfectly agreeing with this iterative and gradual approach of starting small, iterating and scaling up that Andreea just mentioned, because if the proof of quick wins that Marta also mentioned is lost, then we lose our way to move forward, because buying top stakeholders sponsorship does not continue. So basically we don't have the medium to continue building data infrastructures, data literacy workshops and so on. So that's the cornerstone. But I would just like to add a couple of lighter points, like for example, don't forget to celebrate even our small successes, because it is a journey and it requires lots of effort. In this way, we can also persist delivering, because deliveries are not just a number. We have to keep them along the whole journey. Celebrations also help us to foster collaborations, keep the motivation of our people, but also embrace data culture. Training and continuous learning and support that we mentioned before. And we always need to be prepared to address resistance, overcome challenges as we discussed before, listen to concerns, address misconceptions, provide support and reassurance. That's the light additions from my side.
No, absolutely. No, that's great. I think we have time. Another quick point I wanted to sort of bring in, and that's the challenge that I do see quite a lot out there in the industry. So as we have more and more agility and more capability with the tools and processes, etc., that we use. Security as is another key topic, and accessibility to data that often is hindered by security. So many times, like I said, I work with financial organizations and have all sorts of tools at their capacity, but oftentimes you do fell into a situation, oh, so-and-so needs that data, but they don't have access, or they have to go through a certain process to request it. And those processes a lot of times can be so cumbersome, they actually are more detrimental to a business than beneficial. So, I think we've all faced the problem that, oh, I can't send you an invite from so-and-so email address, or I can't use this tool because our company doesn't use it, and so on, and vice versa. So I'll come to you, Andreea, with this question. Data governance is very strictly defined and applied within the financial sector. You know how many regulatory compliances, GDPR, and all sorts of things that we have to follow. How do you find the balance between, let's say, data accessibility to the right people at the right place at the right time, and so on, and then making sure they have the right access, not obviously more than right, but also not less than what's required, so they can perform their duties and they can deliver to the business as and when needed?
Yeah, so generally I approach it from a place of, I really like this saying, data governance needs to be an enabler, not a straight jacket,
not
right?
A blocker, correct.
Not a straight jacket. So whenever I discuss with the risk function, I bring this up. So do you want to enable us or be a straight jacket? So that changes the conversation, right? Because we realize what the purpose of governance should be to begin with, right? You don't want to break things that you shouldn't be breaking. So you start from that point of enabling things, but at the same time, not restricting things. So it's a big difference here. So once I have the straitjacket conversation, then people sort of relax and they're focused towards solutions. So that's really important. And again, there's no one solution across the board. So you have to break it down project by project. So does this project impact your customer in what way? What's the risk level? Because in banking in particular, you have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 risk level. So depending on the level of risk of your initiative, you have different rules in place, right? And for level 3, which is the lowest, you have a bit more freedom. And if you really want to do something crazy and out there, then you experiment it. You kind of safeguard it in an incubator. You have non-prod environment, you play with data there, and then you kind of go through the governance process after that. So there are always ways to do it. It's possible. That's kind of start from a place where you really believe it's possible. That's what I would say. But I know it can be annoying. I generally know it can be annoying. I recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like you said, I think it's about finding the right balance between the accessibility and security, and that's always a challenge for organizations. I think organizations, especially within the highly secure organizations, lean more towards securities, and accessibility gets compromised, and that's also not good for your business productivity and business performance itself. So I guess it's always a challenge that we're trying to walk that very fine line that you never sort of tilt on one side or the other. Great. Anything anyone else would like to, Marta or Stavrianna, would you like to add anything on this point? Do you see the same problem? Or is it something that you don't see that much?
Well, I think it's very related what I said at the beginning, no? Storytelling with data, storytelling about data, no? Understanding that access policies are not negotiable. And GDPR is not negotiable. It's not about a data team. It's about a regulation.
Yeah.
So it's something that you as a consumer of data have this responsibility. It's not a responsibility of technology. Technology and data governance, as says Andreea, is the one that enables that this happen as easy as possible. But the faints are there. So it's something that it's not because of the data team, it's not because of the technology, it's not because of data governance team. It's because it's something that the company have to bring to the users. No, it's a common goal, as I say, it's a common goal. To be compliant is not something that it's for technology. No, if you have an Excel and you are sending emails with this data, you are not secure, you are compromising your company, and what is happening with GDPR. So it's something that it starts with everyone, with people, not people, process, and technology, but it's just understanding that this is not only making AI, Gen AI, or this is not only making dashboards for making decisions. It's a commitment with data, because data is an asset. It's not something, no, as you said, no, we put a lot of data and something we use and the other where. This is a cost for us. And this is a cost in terms of GDPR compliance, in terms of being secure, that the access policies are good enough. So this data literacy is very, very important. For being sure that it's not a commitment only from one side. It's a commitment of everyone. It's a goal for the company. And this is very important, because if not, you start saying, no, the business, I want to accelerate the business. I don't mind about GDPR. Well, stop here. Because the company wants to earn money and wants not to be unsecure the data of the clients and so on. So I think that this part is very, very important. No? And this data literacy, data democratization is not only for doing lovely things. It has only a responsibility when you are doing good things with it. And that's very important.
No, indeed. No, it's a very good advice there. I want to touch on misconceptions. A lot of times people, and especially I use the word people in organizations, would portray their own personal misconceptions or resistance points within an organization, within a new process, perhaps being introduced by the business. So one of the companies that I was working with, actually, we could see a huge potential if this company was to share part of their data with another organization, and that would be a win-win situation. And the first thing that I actually heard was resistance, which wasn't, later on we discovered it wasn't quite true. So the situation was that if this company opens an API and then gives access to I call it a company B outside, they can leverage onto the data and actually build a much better data product to their own advantage. And then it's a win-win situation. The company A gets the revenue for this, for sharing their data. Company B is actually running and spinning up another solution out of this. And as we started conversations, there was a resistance from company A sharing that data, simply because it was more of a question from their side, or more of a objection from their side, to say, what if this goes wrong? There's some very serious compliance issues, very serious regulatory data leakage, and so on and so forth. And then later on, we did discover if we had those processes, sharing and sanctioning data correctly in place, it can be easily avoided, and the reward ratio is much higher than the risk ratio here, which wasn't seen initially. So I guess, again, I'd open up the floor if any of you has seen any incorrectly positioned objections in your business to do something that later on you discovered actually wasn't as bad as we were thinking, and now we've done it. The benefit is actually huge. Can anyone think of any sort of challenges that come to your organization similar to the one that I explained here?
I would have in mind something way simpler. The very common argument that is one of the very usual misconceptions of moving towards the data-driven decision-making journey, which is what also Andreea said before, garbage in, garbage out. So people very usually tend to resist to all of those data-driven initiatives, taking, let's say, commitment to those and using them for making decisions on the argument that we know that the data is not accurate enough or not good enough. And that's even of a bigger problem. We know that the data quality is not the result only of the processing or treatment that we apply within data warehouses and these type of systems, but they are coming due to data entry processes, or possibly to previous states, lack of awareness of how required personal identification and customer data master updates are. And I know there are some industries that this doesn't happen, but there are some other industries where identification is not mandatory. So basically we have poor quality data And on the other hand, we are trying to influence towards data-driven decision-making. So the argument, the debate about garbage in, garbage out, and there's no data-driven decision-making is a very, very usually referred risk.
Sure.
My answer to that is that we need to start from something. We can derive value. There are quick wins that can be used. So basically, if we don't have 100% data accuracy, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing anything. So we take baby steps, we start small, we iterate, we scale up, and in parallel, of course, we do all that is required to improve data accuracy further. And that may mean data augmentation, integration with external systems, as you mentioned, but maybe also internal, simpler things like designing and enforcing data entry processes.
Absolutely perfect. Now we just on time. Thank you very much for the response there, Stavrianna and Marta and Andreea. Really good discussion with you. I think we'll end this session here. Thank you again for your time, and we'll return back to the main session for the closing session. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you.